Congress went at it with the cameras rolling, arguing about the border wall, a government shutdown, even the midterm elections.
Excuse me, did we win the Senate? We won the Senate.
When the president brags that he won North
And while the president's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, faces a deadline to make his case and stay out of prison. Two chances for the United States to learn more about the special counsel's Russia investigation. And our reporting begins now.
Fox News Deck.
Breaking news amid unrest and nationwide government protests in France. New reports of a shooting near a popular Christmas market. Several news outlets report 1 dead and 3 hurt. This is happening in the city of Strasbourg, in northeastern part of the country. The French Interior Ministry is now calling for anyone there to remain indoors due to what it's dubbed a serious security event in the city. The area is a tourist spot with millions of tourists visiting that Christmas market every year. Updates as events warrant throughout this news hour. But our reporting begins with a temper tantrum that spiraled downwards. That's how Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are describing a meeting at the White House with President Trump. Now, the White House is calling it a constructive dialogue, but admits there's still major disagreement about how to avoid a partial government shutdown right around Christmas. Much of that meeting behind closed doors, but it started with a 15-minute back and forth that was open to the news media and full of fireworks. Congress has less than 2 weeks to avoid a partial government shutdown. The president has tried to tie the funding for the wall at the southern border to legislation that would keep the government running. But our Capitol Hill team tells us House Republicans do not have the votes to pass legislation to avoid the shutdown, with or without the border wall money. Leaders Pelosi and Schumer explained that to the president.
It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans. It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote of the Senate. I need 10 senators. That's the problem.
You have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the White House. The White House is done. And the House would give me the vote if I wanted it. But I can't because I need, Nancy, I need 10 votes from Chuck.
All right, let me say something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need border security. Nancy, we need border security.
Border security. That was a big part of today's talks. President Trump listed some stats about how he says parts of the border wall were already effective. None of the border wall has been built, not as he's described it, not as he showed it, not the one he promised Mexico would pay for. That one is not built. Some of it has been reinforced, some concertina wires have been put up, some replacement, but no new wall. Hasn't happened. The House Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, calls the president's information not factual. Both Democratic leaders also challenged this claim that a wall is necessary for border security.
We need border security. The wall is a part of border security. You can't have very good border security without the wall.
That's absolutely not true. That is a political promise. Border security is a way to effectively honor our responsibility.
And the experts say you can do border security without a wall, which is wasteful and doesn't solve the problem.
It totally solves the problem.
So the president and the Democrats did not agree on the need for a border wall. They also did not agree about the need for a shutdown, or who would be to blame.
One thing I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up
20 times.
very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wool. None of us have said it.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on my...
You've said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border security.
But we believe you shouldn't shut it down.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And that was how the talks on that topic ended. The president will be proud to shut down the government for border security if he doesn't get what he wants. But far from Washington, Wall Street also felt the effect of that meeting. Stocks dipped into the red when the group just started talking. We're barely in the red now. It's been vacillating. Peter Ducey's reporting. He's live on Capitol Hill. Hi, Peter.
Shep, you heard a little bit of it there, but the president spent some time at this meeting today reminding the Democratic leaders what happened during the last big funding fight. That's when Republicans quickly branded it the Schumer shutdown, and it was politically damaging for the Democrats. So the Democrats already out there, they're calling this the Trump shutdown, even though nothing is finalized yet.
The bottom line is simple. The president made clear that he wants a shutdown. His position, if he sticks to his position for a $5 billion wall, he will get no wall and he will get a shutdown.
Schumer and Pelosi both seemed surprised that the cameras kept rolling and the press just stood there once their meeting actually began. They kept asking the president for the conversations to continue privately, but that did not happen for a while. And Pelosi says she's never been part of a meeting like that because normally things stick to more of a structure.
His presentation to the press today. So when I said, let's have this conversation, they said, oh, you want to keep it from the public? No, we don't want to contradict the president again and again in front of the public. But if that's what he wants, then that's what we have to do. I mean, what he was saying was just not factual.
And I'm told that after the cameras left that meeting and the chatting continued, things were just as candid as the part that we saw. Shep.
We heard from the leaders there after this get-together. Have we heard from the White House?
Yes, they think that meeting was very constructive. The White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, just sent this along. It says, so far the Democrat Party has made clear they would rather keep the border open than the government open. President Trump was grateful for the opportunity to let the press into the meeting so that the American people can see firsthand that while Republicans are fighting to protect our border, Democrats are fighting to protect illegal immigrants. And the president did also take a minute there today to remind the Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, that his ranks thinned in the midterm elections.
Well, we have the lowest unemployment that we've had in 50 years.
60 people of the Republican Party are losing their offices now because of the transition. People are not, the morale.
And we've gained in the Senate. Nancy, we've gained in the Senate. Excuse me, did we win the Senate? We won the Senate.
When the president brags that he won North Dakota and Indiana, he's in real trouble.
I did.
Let me say this.
We did win North Dakota and Indiana.
The Democratic leaders came back here right after that meeting to continue drilling down on their talking points about government funding, but it seems like the president has already moved on for the afternoon, tweeting about James Comey and the FBI. Shep?
Order is restored. Peter Ducey live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Let's get more from the Hill. Our chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel, reporting live. Hi, Mike.
Shep, good afternoon to you. Senate Republican leaders sound hopeful there may be some cooperation later, perhaps a Christmas miracle. Missouri Senator Roy Blunt telling reporters just a few minutes ago, giving President Trump something he wants and giving Democrats something they want isn't that complicated.
If you can solve a couple of them together, solve a couple of these problems together. If you could be for $25 billion in building walls and fences, why couldn't you be for $5 billion in building walls and fences? This is not that hard a problem to solve.
DACA is a reference to the young people who were brought to this country by their parents. So Senator Blunt throwing out there a possibility of including that with some border wall money. Another Senate Republican says the president really wants this fight.
I think he's going to do it. I've always believed. I believe that for some time. I'm prepared to be here through Christmas. The president feels very strongly about the need for a wall, and I think he's prepared to do it.
Right now, Homeland Security funding runs out a week from Friday, late night, the 21st. Shep.
What are you hearing from other Democrats after watching the leaders with the president there? It felt like one of those shows where the president worked for his base and the leaders worked for their base, you know?
Well, you're right. And Connecticut Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal says this would be a ridiculous reason to force a partial government shutdown.
I don't think a president of the United States should be proud of shutting down the government over an unnecessary, expensive, wasteful wall when there are other means of border security that are far more effective.
And Delaware Democrat Senator Chris Coons says the timing would be lousy.
Shutting down the government in a fit of pique over whether he gets $1.5 billion more or $5 billion more for a wall where they haven't spent the current year's appropriations yet strikes me as exactly the sort of Grinch-stealing Christmas move that will not go over well with the American people.
Others have suggested nobody wins in a partial government shutdown. Shep.
Mike Emanuel.